Question is that the House to now adjourn. I call the member for Denison.
Deputy Speaker, I think it's unfathomable that there's so little discussion in this place these days about climate change. And I think it's unforgivable that the government is showing so little interest in climate change and in dealing with the consequences of climate change. Deputy Speaker, it's not as though there's no evidence about the problem. It's not as though there's no evidence that we are facing a very real and a very dangerous situation. And it would be reasonable to say that climate change, perhaps only along with nuclear weapons, is the threat to our existence as we know it on this planet. It is one of two things that can fundamentally change life as we know it, one of two things that is created by humanity, one of two things that can be addressed by humanity. When I talk about the evidence, I mean, you've just got to pick up the State of the Environment report, released every 5 years, which came out quite recently. It makes it clear that Australia remains the largest emitter of carbon per capita of any OECD country. I mean, the government can carve it up and spin it any way they want, but that's a fact, Deputy Speaker. We are the largest emitter per capita of any country in the OECD. And it also is clear from that report that the energy sector emissions are in fact increasing as a proportion of our total emissions. So rather than doing better when it comes to the production of energy, we are doing worse. It's made clear in this. It confirms that 2015 was the world's hottest year on record. And, Deputy Speaker, when I talk about evidence, I pick up the Climate Council report. And this is looking at the summer just ended in this country. And I'll give you a few of the findings, Deputy Speaker. In just 90 days over summer, more than 205 records, environmental records, were broken around Australia. The statewide mean temperature in summer was the hottest for New South Wales since records began. Sydney had its hottest summer on record with a mean temperature almost 3 degrees above average. Brisbane had its hottest summer on record in terms of mean temperature at almost 27 degrees C. Canberra had its hottest summer on record in terms of daytime temperatures and recorded temperatures of at least 35 degrees C on 18 days. Adelaide experienced its hottest Christmas Day in 70 years. Moree in New South Wales experienced 54 consecutive days of temperature 35 C or above, a record for New South Wales. Perth had its highest summer total rainfall on record of near on 200 millimetres. Deputy Speaker, how much more evidence do we need before we finally do something and do something decisive about climate change? And what's been the government's response? To support the Adani Carmichael mine, what will be the biggest coal mine in the world, with basically support of near on $1 billion. And the government pledging its support for more coal-fired power stations at a time that you won't find an energy company in the land that wants to invest in coal-fired power stations. The government rubbishing South Australia's commendable renewable energy target, a target to be applauded and supported and not a target to be attacked. And then there's this headline announcement about the Snowy scheme, which in principle I find admirable and I support, but then when you drill down into the detail, you read reports about, well, they're actually going to pump the water up the hill with energy from coal-fired power stations. Surely the whole point of pumping water into dams to store as energy is to use energy from renewable energy to do the pumping. The whole point of making that whole system work is it will use power from wind and solar and geothermal and tidal and wave and any other number of renewable energies to do it right. Deputy Speaker, we've got to do something about this. You know, I'm a father of 2 young children. Most of us are fathers of young children or grandfathers of young children. We've got to understand that climate change and our response to it is one of the greatest examples of intergenerational injustice that this country has ever seen and probably will ever see. There is a moral obligation to do everything in our power, starting in this place. Put a price on pollution. Roll out renewable energy. Let's have zero net carbon emissions. Let's have 100% dependence on renewable energy, and let's put in place the legislation to make it happen now. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The question is that the House to now adjourn.